What's up, guys? HockeyTiktockey's back again with an all new video. Today we are going to be discussing my hot takes of the year. So basically, I'm going to be explaining some really sort of unexpected ideas and thoughts about this upcoming season. Some of it you may not agree with. Some of it you might not think is that hot of a takes, but these are just basically a couple of thoughts about each of the really strong opinions that I might have about the upcoming season, starting with my team, the Calgary Flames. I believe that the Calgary Flames are not truly rebuilding. If they were, they would be moving out a lot more of their veteran players. In fact, they've already done that, guys. They've already divested a lot of their older and more established players over the last year or two. And the veterans that they have are mostly all still, ready to move on with the young players that they have coming up. They have their goaltender of the future in Dustin Wolf signed for the next 7 years straight. They've got a goal scorer in Matt Coronado signed as well, and a lot of really young, really promising defensemen coming up through the pipelines right now. So the only thing left for the Flames to do in terms of this rebuild would be to get that first line center, which maybe they do have in a player like Connor Zary. Maybe they don't. Maybe they can acquire one through free agency or through trade in the future. But they were only 1 point out of a playoff spot last year. And I think that they can take another step forward this year, especially if some of those young players like Coronado, Dustin Wolf, Connor Zary, Martin Pospisil, if some of these guys take another step forward in their development themselves. And they have a couple of guys like Zane Parekh and Hunter Brstevich come up and establish themselves as defensemen who can run a power play in the future. They don't even really need to keep a guy like Rasmus Anderson around when they've got Brstevich and Parekh on the waiting on the rookie roster. So that's hot take number one, guys. The Calgary Flames are not in a rebuild. They're actually sort of just in a retool, and they're ready to go playoff bound this upcoming season. Number two, the Maple Leafs window is basically closed, guys. Their core four is no longer, with Mitch Marner moving out of Toronto and going over to Vegas. They lost a huge piece of what made them so dominant in terms of regular season success over the last few years. Now, obviously, everybody knows that the Maple Leafs have had a lot of trouble getting past even the first round of the playoffs during this last little stretch where, most people have been slotting them as contenders. But at the end of the day, they play in a really hard division, a division that was always stacked with either Tampa Bay, Boston, or Florida, always seemingly being amongst some of the best teams in the NHL. So I guess basically you can't really blame the lack of success for the Maple Leafs on those four guys over the last few years. But now that they've lost Mitch Marner, it's over. I think the Leafs are going to go downhill. Obviously, Matthews is still a super talented goal scorer, but I think that with the other division teams like Ottawa and Montreal coming up, and a lot of the Florida teams still doing just as well as they have been, their window is basically closed. So the Maple Leafs are no longer going to be a contender. In fact, I see this as the year that they need to start really reshuffling things and rethinking the formula, because it's not going to work in Toronto for very much longer. Hot take number three, guys, is Connor McDavid might actually be leaving Edmonton. So I made an entire video about this last couple days ago. And I made it pretty clear, guys, that with the comments that he made in his press conference the other day, it looks like he is seriously considering stepping away from Edmonton and finding another team to play with. And I don't really blame him, because Connor has been one of the most dominant players in the NHL for the last basically decade since he joined the league. And obviously he's had a lot of playoff success. The last 2 years they made it to the Stanley Cup final, but I think the team around him hasn't done enough to step up when he's not being the superstar that he obviously is. And they have struggled defending the puck mightily over the last 10 years. You know, you could make the argument that when they got Matthias Ekholm and Bouchard, that they finally had a strong first defense pairing. But aside from that, their defense has always been weak, guys. And their goaltending has been an even bigger joke of a story. Like, for example, they signed Campbell a few years ago when he was never even a proven NHL starter. And within just a couple of years, he lost his job to Stuart Skinner and got shuffled all the way down to the NHL or the AHL because he couldn't hack it in the NHL anymore. And now Stu Skinner, every time the bright lights shine on him, he seems to not be ready for it either. So I guess basically what I'm saying is, if Connor McDavid really wants to stay in Edmonton, Edmonton has to do something different with the way that they run the rest of the organization. You know, there's too many times when you talk about Edmonton, you hear about the fact that they're throwing money around at guys that don't really deserve it, and they're not putting enough thought into how they actually constructed the roster around that team. So if Connor is going to stay in Edmonton, I think that they need to win the Stanley Cup this year. So that's hot take number 3. Number 4 is about Team USA. I think that Team USA has a legitimate chance, a legitimate shot of winning the gold medal at the Olympics this coming season. That's pretty scary to think if you're cheering for Team Canada. But I think when you look at the rosters, you know, match them up, you know, side by side, USA actually has a deeper team, you know, and Canada obviously has the big names, the superstars like McDavid, like McKinnon, like Crosby, like Cale Makar, but the depth of the US is just so strong, you know, right from the top all the way down to the bottom of their lineup. They've just got so much talent and so much raw skill. And I think they really, really outshine the Canadian goaltenders. And that can be the deciding factor. You know, they have Connor Hellebuck, Jake Ottinger, Jeremy Swayman, Dustin Wolf, and the list goes on and on of how many goalies that they can choose from to play for their Olympic squad, that I think it's going to be really, really tough for Team Canada to be able to compete with them this year. Now, ultimately, if I had to put money on it, I still say Canada is going to win the gold, but I just think that USA has a legitimate chance at winning the gold medal this year, even though that they lost to Canada in the Four Nations face-off last season. And then finally, my final hot take of the day, guys, is that the NHL playoff format is broken. And I think I made another video about this again a few months ago or something like that. But my idea or my thought is that the NHL playoffs has been kind of screwed up ever since the league went to having the divisional opponents play each other, because there has been instances now where a team that actually may have had more points than one of the playoff teams had not made it based off of the divisional alignment. So I guess what needs to happen, in my opinion, in order to fix this, would be for the league to reorganize the playoffs to be at least 1 versus 8 in terms of rankings on the East and on the West, or the more extreme version of this would be going 1 through 16 in just an entire league ranking. And I know that sounds pretty extreme, because then you could even potentially end up with more teams from the West or more teams from the East, like more from one of the conferences making it in. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're the better team, if you're the team with more points, you know, you really do deserve a chance to win the Stanley Cup. So that's what I think, guys, is the NHL playoff format's broken. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit the bell and subscribe, guys. And thank you all for watching. Have a good night.